Tonight, Miranda Otto is poetry in motion in Reaching for the Moon.
Roman Polanski blurs the lines between reality and fiction in Venus and Fur.
And Juliette Binoche and Clive Owen have a brush with love in Words and Pictures. Hi.
Hi there.
Also tonight, David Gulpilil goes walkabout in Charlie's Country.
A young graduate receives an education in political diplomacy in The French Minister.
And this week's classic is the French film Innocence. But Judith, why don't you get us started with Words and Pictures?
Directed by Fred Schepisi, it's the story of two high school teachers, Jack Marcus, Clive Owen, and Dina Della Santo, Juliette Binoche. Both work at Croydon, an elite prep school, and both are dealing with the loss of their ability to create. Jack was once a respected poet, but hasn't been able to live up to his early promise. And while he's a passionate English teacher who truly loves words, he has, like almost every passionate but blocked English teacher in movies, turned to alcohol. Dina is a gifted artist, but her body is riddled with rheumatoid arthritis, so she's trying to find a different way to paint. You know within the first 30 seconds that this is going to be a film about these two people dealing with pain, one mental, one physical, coming together or not. Jack is certainly on the defensive when he hears that Dina has told her art students that words are traps and lies. And so the backdrop for this romance is a competition that envelops the whole school, where Dina and Jack try to prove that their own form of expression is the more powerful. Jack's determination to win is heightened by the fact that, largely due to his alcoholism, his job is on the line. Will words or pictures win the day?
I have a challenge for you. Look, forget the poem. You pick a subject, paint a picture, we print it in the issue. I write 1,000 words on the same subject. We have an assembly. Words versus pictures, which is worth more?
Why should I bother? This is your inane war.
Because then I will print the best of your students' work. You can choose them. Come on. It'll give them something to shoot for.
I'm a fan of Fred Schepisi, and I'd like to sleep with both Clive Owen and Juliette Binoche. But this film is leaden. The idea of setting language against images is an interesting one, and I enjoy the scenes of Juliette Binoche attempting to train herself to paint in another style. The actor's actually an artist, and the canvases are all hers. And I was moved by a couple of the scenes, especially the one where Clive Owen tries to apologise to his son Tony, Christian Scheider, for some of his behaviour. But the real problem is that Owen and Binoche have no chemistry, and neither of them can do comedy. Admittedly, the dialogue between them is far from sparkling, but Binoche literally rolls her eyes and shakes her head when she's trying to deliver something amusing. You know their sniping is meant to recall the old screwball comedies, but it really falls flat. And in the end, I just didn't care whether these two annoying people got together or not. Did you?
No, I didn't. They have no chemistry at all.
None.
And I sort of
We're
thought...
setting the screen on fire compared to them, Jason.
Look, I thought that this would have been a better film if it was about Clive Owen's character and his son.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least that's the only subplot that's interesting. I mean, they're humorless, both characters, which maybe would have worked if Schepisi had made this sort of swooningly romantic film, a bit like, I don't know, Frankie and Johnny or something, you know, Michelle Pfeiffer and Al Pacino. Or made an out-and-out comedy, and he's done neither, really.
Can I give you... Remember this bit of dialogue? He at one point says, 20 minutes is the norm, and she says, then I'll call Norm, come here, Norm, Norm, Norm. I mean, for the love of God.
She's not great with comedy, is she?
No, neither of them are, to be honest.
Yeah, and the fact that she's been given rheumatoid arthritis to work with, a terrible haircut. Here's Clive Owen looking pretty chic, even though he is an alcoholic. I also think it's kind of a little bit unbalanced, this film. I felt a bit sorry for Juliette Binoche in this movie. God,
I think that's the least of its problems. She still looks pretty hot. But anyway, look, I'm giving it 2 stars. What are you giving it?
2 stars as well.
Oh, my God, Del Santo, you should see something. You should see how you look in that line.
Oh, for God's sake.
I wish I was a painter.
Words fail.
Pictures, too. I can't tell you how much I want us to put our mouths together.
Oh, really? You're attracted to me?
Very much.
Why?
Same species, different sex. Aren't you attracted to me?
Not in the least. Did you think I would be?
Well, I had high hopes for this jacket. I mean, it's old, but it's custom made, and yet you feel nothing?
Admiration.
Good.
For your tailor.
Words and Pictures opens nationally this week. Charlie's Country is set in a remote Aboriginal community in the Northern Territory. The intervention is in full swing and local elder Charlie, played by David Gulpilil, a grumpy old man with a mischievous sense of humour, is becoming increasingly frustrated. He doesn't see much improvement in the lives of his people. The food at the local shop is still terrible, the drugs and alcohol are still there. And then there are the annoying policemen forever handing out fines and enforcing laws that encroach upon the old ways. So Charlie takes to the bush, an act of rebellion that's joyous at first, but triggers a series of tragic events.
Nyama balma. What drink nyana ni? Kana kapu. Ya. Buanggal krela. Ngaman leke. Nyat panal ngorengnya.
There's no denying the power behind this confronting story, co-written by Gulpilil himself, with its semi-autobiographical elements of exile and alcohol abuse. But I came away thinking that he and director Rolf de Heer, who co-wrote the script and has worked with Gulpilil before on The Tracker, needed more time to add an extra layer of complexity. As jaw-dropping as it is at times, what you have here is a film that tells you what to think, through dialogue, through music. There's hardly a moment where you're torn between two different readings of a situation. Take even the most contradictory character, a naive young policeman played by Luke Ford, who presumes he can be mates with blackfellas without learning anything from them. He's a symbol of patronising, bigoted government attitudes, but his trajectory to out-and-out racist is never a surprise. Gulpilil, who won Best Actor in Uncertain Regard at the Cannes Film Festival, is undoubtedly a captivating presence. But even so, I was disappointed in a kind of flatness in his portrayal. There are very few gestures or moments when a change of heart happens that open up a deeper, challenging engagement with the character. Charlie's Country is still of great interest, there's no doubt about that, but it's only pretty good as a film, I think. What did you think?
Oh, I disagree. I just thought it was excellent. It really rang true for me, and I think Gulpilil's performance is just amazing. The camera loves him, and because so much of it is based on his actual experience, that's why...
It really moved you, like,
it really
emotionally.
did. Yeah, it absolutely did. And I loved reading how when de Heer and Gulpilil went bush, de Heer suddenly understood when he saw Gulpilil in that landscape how much he physically belonged there. And it is the white people who look out of place in this film. And of course, it's all about how we've displaced them.
Sure, and that's pretty clear in the film. But that whole section where he goes to his own country and we get this montage of him walking through the wilderness, his country, the film plays this music over it. It's as if it doesn't have faith in the natural elements of the soundtrack.
I'm probably going to sound a little right on here, man, but I actually think it's a film Australians should see. I'm giving it 4 stars.
I'm giving it 3.
Wabangara recreational chira. Marajinin ka antangare. Kangare ngar wakung nyan belak Queen ko Lingi opening jeni Ayun manyalong Wangar play.
Charlie's Country opens in limited release around the country this week. With Polanski's latest film, he has, like Carnage, chosen to adapt a stage play, David Ives' Venus in Fur. But this time the director has opted to make the movie in French. The play itself is actually an adaptation of the 1870 novel by Leopold Zacher-Masoch, who inspired the term masochism. And the book revolves around a man's desire to be dominated by a woman. Mathieu Amalric plays Thomas, the writer-director of this play within a film based on a play, who is frustrated that he cannot cast the all-important role of Wanda when an actress called Wanda, Polanski's wife, Emmanuelle Seigner, appears and insists on auditioning. Vulgar and rough, she appears to be the last person on earth capable of playing the part of a genteel woman who becomes a dominatrix. But it soon becomes clear that she's not only learnt the entire play and brought her own costume, but is the actual embodiment of the character. And it becomes increasingly clear that Thomas is the embodiment of Severin, the man who wishes to be dominated.
Elle est entrée dans ma chambre avec sa grande cape en renard noir de Russie. Et à la main, elle tenait une verge, une branche de bouleau fraîchement coupée et était suivie par la cuisinière et la bonne. Elle s'est débarrassée de sa fourrure et a retroussé ses manches. J'ai essayé de m'enfuir, mais les deux autres femmes se sont emparées de moi, m'ont baissé le pantalon et m'ont jeté sur la fourrure. Elles m'ont agrippé tandis que ma tante me corrigeait avec la verge. Mes fesses et mes cuisses nues étaient en feu.
Soon we don't know where the play ends and reality begins. While the director initially has all the power, it is Wanda who takes control. But is it the actor or the character or Venus herself? When you add the extra layer of Polanski directing his wife and the fact that Amalric looks like a young Polanski, well, where does art end and life begin? Or is it the other way around? Watching this reminded me of what a master filmmaker Polanski is. In the wrong hands, this could have been a disaster, but it's so self-assured, such a delight to watch, and while the whole thing is set in the one location, it's always visually interesting. Thanks also to his longtime director of photography, Pavel Edelman. The performances are both great, particularly Seigner as Wanda, and it's such a smart, funny, tongue-in-cheek take on power, the relationship between actor and director, and ultimately men and women. The last 30 seconds are ludicrous, but other than that, it's a very classy film. Do you think?
Yeah, I really like the last 30 seconds as well, I have to
Really?
say.
That went a little over the edge for me.
He pushes it into like Fellini territory or something, but I thought it really worked. It's a really good film, isn't it? I mean, it's quite intellectual, but then there's an earthiness to it, and there's that humour. And Emmanuelle Seigner, I think, has always been a really funny actress.
She's just great.
She's great here. She's capable of that sort of element of humour undercutting her performance. I really liked it because and I was surprised because I didn't like Carnage. I thought that was kind of filmed theatre in a way, but this is sort of much more...
This is more fun, I reckon. Everyone looks like they're having a ball.
But I think he's just done it with more sophistication visually. I mean, there's a moment where she reads the first lines from the script and, you know, clearly she suddenly embodies this character and we don't expect it, but, you know it's happening.
Yeah.
And he just makes that magical transition happen on just a simple cut, I think. Suddenly we see her in the back of shot and she's reading and she is the person.
Yeah.
Real simplicity, but he really gets it right.
Yeah. What are you giving it?
I'm giving it 4.
Same, 4 stars.
Si j'étais vous, je ferais attention. Votre femme idéale s'avérera peut-être plus cruelle que vous ne le souhaitez.
Je suis prêt à courir le risque.
Je sais ce que vous êtes. Un hypersensuel. Un ascète de la volupté.
Et vous, Frau Wanda von Dunayev, qui ou quoi êtes-vous?
Je suis une païenne. Ce qui veut dire que je suis jeune, belle, riche, et que je compte en profiter le plus possible. Je ne me refuserai rien.
Venus in Fur opens in limited national release this week. On our website, you can find an interview with the director, Roman Polanski, along with writer-director of Charlie's Country, Rolf de Heer, and actor Peter Jigger. Reaching for the Moon is about the romance between American poet Elizabeth Bishop and Brazilian architect Lota de Macedo Soares. Set in the mid-20th century, it's an exploration of a unique chemistry between two very different women set against the backdrop of a tumultuous era of Brazilian history. Lota's idealistic modernist vision, which inspired the building of the famous Flamengo Park on a huge rubbish area in Rio, was in tune with the optimistic spirit of the early 60s. But it was a spirit that was crushed by darker times, both for Brazil and for Lota's life. Brazilian actress Gloria Pires is a real dynamo as the extroverted Lota, and yet she navigates through the darker, fragile moments well. Meanwhile, as the waspish, reserved Elizabeth, Australian actress Miranda Otto is a standout, skillfully transcending her character's outer coldness to give us glimpses of a creative inner life and surprising generosity. Alongside these two, there are strong performances from Marcelo Arioldi as the politician Carlos Lacerda and Tracy Middendorf as Lota's ex-lover Mary, another American character who makes things between the two main characters more than just a little complicated. It's not often you see Brazil in the 60s on screen like this, but the characters are a fascinating lens through which to view such volatile times. This is because they are difficult to categorise politically. They are engaged with establishment politics, even as their social values are quite transgressive, for the period at least. Veteran Brazilian director Bruno Barreto handles it all with a light touch and an eye for beauty that really engages you. There's such a strong life force and sensuality pulsating through this, expressed in the music, in the dramatic lines and textures of Lota's buildings, and in the rich colours of everything, from the food to the natural surroundings. I really enjoyed it. What did you think?
I'm really glad I know this story. What a couple of extraordinary women.
Yeah.
And yeah, just so good to watch. I mean, I thought it was kind of like a Brazilian lesbian Mad Men, the way they recreated, you know, I thought fantastic art direction. I wanted every single outfit. And I loved all the love triangle stuff. I thought that was really well done. And for me, that was the best part of the film. Once they left Lota's quite extraordinary property, it fell away a bit for me.
Did it?
Actually felt like the political stuff came a bit out of the blue.
See, for me,
I thought
it was
their
always
breakup
simmering.
did.
No?
Yeah, I don't know. And I thought the ending, even though it's obviously what really happened, for me, that didn't quite ring true either. So I really enjoyed the first 3/4 of the film, and then not so much the end. Lost me a little bit.
As I say, for me, that politics was always there in the background and ready to explode. And when it does, it sort of does so in an interesting way. It was a real revelation, this film, and I was really happy to have seen it. I'm giving it 4 stars.
I enjoyed it, but I'm giving it, I'm giving it 3 stars.
This president is a disaster.
Even so, he was democratically elected. There has to be a process.
This is the process, Elizabeth. We are in South America. Do you want to live under a communist regime? Do you?
Maybe we should take a vacation.
How dare you demean me like that?
What?
Vacation. Now?
Actually,
Why not? After all, it's not like I'm writing great poetry. I'm just a glorified gardener. I won't abandon my country or my park.
Reaching for the Moon opens in limited national release this week. Our next film is The French Minister, directed by Bertrand Tavernier, based on the graphic novel by Christophe Blaine and Abel Lonzac Quai d'Orsay. This comedy tells the story of the French minister of the title, Alexandre Taillet de Worms, Thierry Lhermitte, and his new young speechwriter, Arthur Vlamont, Raphael Pessanat. The minister, a commanding figure, talks big when it comes to his Department of Foreign Affairs and clearly wants to make his mark on history. But we soon realise that he's little more than hot air and slogans, and that the real power really lies with Private Secretary Claude Maupas, Niels Arestrup. So Arthur must negotiate not only Claude and the minister's ego, but the rest of his advisors or hangers-on. Speeches are constantly being rewritten, but everything is building to the actual speech real Minister Dominique de Villepin gave at the United Nations in 2003, where he opposed America's invasion of Iraq.
On s'adresse aux 191 États membres de l'ONU sur des sujets spécifiques. Le Louzémistan, les menaces de guerre.
Et précisément, ce discours, il faut qu'il ait du cœur au travers d'une histoire, au travers d'une anecdote, et tout d'un coup, paf!
This sounds like great material, and Abel Lonzac worked for the real-life head of Foreign Affairs, so everything here is originating from truth. And maybe if you knew the players, it would be a wonderful satire. But I'm afraid that when I was watching this film, at one point I simply wrote down the word excruciating. Despite its basis in fact, it feels like there is not a single new idea here. We've seen this done so much better, not only in the series The Thick of It and the subsequent film In the Loop, but also in the classic series Yes, Minister. It's such an old idea now that it's the men behind the scenes who get things done and politicians are just self-obsessed egomaniacs. And this film is just not funny. There is a recurring joke about a door slamming, which made me want to repeatedly slam my own head in a car door. The actors give it a crack, especially Niels Arestrup, but again, the reason something like In the Loop works is not only because of the quality of the comedy, but because there is actual tension, which again is totally lacking here. This is Tavernier's first comedy, and maybe that explains why it's such a misfire, and why a script based on such substance appears to have virtually none. Possibly if you were French, you would find this hilarious, but I literally couldn't wait for it to end.
I liked it better than you.
Okay,
It
not
sound like
hard.
that'd be hard. I think, I mean, yeah, Tavernier is not really good with comedy.
And I know he's a really respected director.
But you know, you're right, the slamming door thing, when everyone's papers fly into the air, it just goes on and on and on, repeats, and it's not very funny.
Yeah.
But
when it's a recurring joke, make it funny the first time.
Yeah. I think two things. I think, first of all, we're not used to seeing this sort of Yes Minister thing outside of the Anglo-Saxon parliamentary context. So I found that really fascinating, France's position in the world and so forth. And also, it's not just about this sort of crazy airhead politician who doesn't know what he's doing and all his staff doing the hard work for him. It's kind of that, but in the end, some of his big brushstroke suggestions actually turn out to be quite good ones. And this isn't a satire that sort of ends with this terrible speech. This speech, historically, in the view of the film, was a great speech.
Yeah, good on you for finding some depth to this, because I just think it is all one note, and it's a miracle I made it to the end. I'm giving it 1 star.
I, again, found it really interesting and funny in parts. I'm giving it 3.
Vous voulez ma mort ou quoi? Il ne marche pas, ce stabilo. Martine, vous allez m'expliquer quelque chose. Pourquoi vous m'achetez des stabilos qui ne marchent pas? Regardez, ils pluchent, ils pluchent. Il y a une crise au l'Ouzbékistan qui risque de tourner à la guerre mondiale. Comment voulez-vous que j'affronte le département d'État américain avec un stabilo pourri?
The French Minister opens in staggered limited release from this week. Now for the classic. The French have made some wonderful films about childhood. Jean Vigo's Zero for Conduct, Francois Truffaut's 400 Blows. I think writer-director Lucille Hazyalilovic's 2004 film Innocence is in this class. Based on a Frank Wedekind novella, the same one that influenced Dario Argento's Suspiria, Innocence is an impressionistic fairy tale about girlhood. It's set in a boarding school surrounded by a beautiful forest and performed by a cast of non-professional child actors. Among the adults, you'll recognise Marion Cotillard as a ballet instructor and Hélène de Foucherolles as a science teacher who cuts a slightly disturbing figure with her walking stick. Innocence is not a realist film, though the storylines explore recognisable themes. A young girl struggles to settle in as she battles homesickness. An older pupil becomes desperate to gain an early graduation by making an impression in a ballet exam.
Alice? Mais qu'est-ce que tu fais là? C'est pas ton jour.
Je vais répéter avec Mademoiselle Eva.
Ah bon?
C'est elle qui m'a demandé de venir.
Pourquoi est-ce que tu tiens tellement à être choisie? Tu veux t'en aller avant les autres? T'es pas heureuse ici?
Si, mais j'aimerais bien savoir ce qu'il y a dehors.
Tu sais, Alice, je crois pas que tu seras choisie.
Qu'est-ce que vous en savez, espèce d'handicapée?
What I love about the film is its sense of mystery. You wonder about the unknown world beyond the stone walls surrounding the school, or the private lives of the teachers. And where do the older girls sneak off to after curfew? Some of these mysteries are never fully explained, others are metaphors. But as the girls grow, they experience revelations about this world that are both wondrous and disturbing. Nature plays an important role in the film as a symbol of freedom, while various details, like the coloured ribbons the girls wear to denote their age, are reminders of hierarchy and discipline. All of this is depicted like a dream by Lucy Hadzialilovic, working in collaboration with cinematographer Benoit Derby, who shot Spring Breakers. He uses minimal lighting but creates a fantasy rivalling that of Harry Potter. Unfortunately, this director hasn't made another feature since this film, though she's collaborated on movies with husband, director Gaspar Noé. I hope she makes another feature of her own because I think there's a sensibility here that's unique and very magical. Did you like this, Judith?
Is it unfortunate? See, the sense of mystery actually drove me a bit nuts. I mean, it's a very effective mood piece. It's almost hypnotic. And I was certainly really disconcerted by all the shots of the semi-clad prepubescent girls. But then after a while, I did find myself going, I don't know what the point is. I mean, why are they arriving in coffins? Why are they only learning ballet? And I felt it was kind of a bit mysterious just for the sake of it.
Well, I don't know. I think there's a great sense of apprehension that builds through the film. And look, the great unspoken is sex, obviously. This is a prepubescent sort of fable. And this is about how the world tries to bend you, either out of love or out of a desire to sort of destroy you as a child, I think.
I think you're a lot deeper than me because I just thought, well, is this a metaphor for, you know, lost purity? And I just didn't really like what it was saying, even though, you know, it is directed by a woman. Look, it's lovely to look at. I will certainly give you that.
Look, I just think it gets richer and richer thematically as it goes along. I really think this is a classic, I must say. Contemporary classic. Let's have a look at some more of the magic from this bewitching film.
And just a little bit creepy, Jason. And next week's classic is Sunset Boulevard.
And please check out our website where you can find an exclusive career interview with Fred Skepsey. That's it from us. Good night.
Good night.